All right, everybody, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Now, every day that passes in the Donald Trump administration, I can feel it. Anxiety rising among you, rising among Canadians in general. I tell you, I feel it because I see the notes on the text message line, and I talk to people. I talk to my friends, my family members, and I hear the way they talk about how things are going, the threats from the United States about tariffs, right, and all of that. Even though we may have seemingly a reprieve yesterday, I hear the tension and the anxiety in their voice. Those people aren't alone. Recent Leger poll found that 28% see U.S. trade tensions as Canada's top issue. I think you go back in time a few short months ago and you ask Canadians what they were concerned about. You would have seen a whole bunch of different things, right? Housing, right? Cost of living, all of that. All that's been blown aside. Everyone's thinking about Donald Trump, the U.S., and they've got some anxiety over it. We saw pollster Jean-Marc Leger saying that a little while back, Canadian voters, they were feeling anger against the government. At the time, Justin Trudeau, Liberal government, they felt anger. Now, that emotion has been replaced by anxiety and fear. Let's talk a little bit more about this. Allison Harell's on the line, a professor at UQAM, specialist in public opinion over at the Department of Political Science. Allison, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
First things first, I want to know what you think about, what maybe the comments from Jean-Marc Leger and the emotion that the electorate has. What's your take on that and the emotion that voters, Canadians in general, are feeling right now?
Well, I think from my perspective, it's really quite unprecedented, the ways in which the issue of relationships with the United States right now is just dominating people's minds in terms of the current election, but also, pocketbook voting and what's going on in their everyday life and being able to cross the border.
Is it warranted?
Now, that's a great question. I think people are rightly concerned about the situation right now. There's definitely been increased rhetoric as well as concrete actions by the U.S. government that have direct effects on Canadians. And unlike sometimes in politics, Canadians are really paying attention right now. It's really dominating the ways in which people are reacting.
Sorry, continue.
I was just going to say that we've been asking questions about the United States for quite some time in surveys we've been doing, and mostly when you ask about the United States, people are either lukewarm or positive, and it's been kind of stable into the last couple months. And so I think that's really where you see people's attitudes shifting and just salience.
How exceptional is what we're going through right now? When you think about Canadians' attitudes and maybe how resilient or how stable they've been versus what we've seen over the last few months.
So we've asked a question that's really interesting that we ask is about Canadians' views about how close the relationship with the U.S. should be. And that's a question that we've been asking for years. And I've never seen it above about a third of Canadians saying they want our relationship to be less close. In the last 2 months, it's a majority of people who want a less close, a more distant relationship with the U.S. And this is really, really high if you look at people over 40 years old. So a lot of the people, working full time with families, the attitudes they have towards the U.S. have shifted dramatically, and I've never seen them like that before.
What do you think's feeding into that? And I'll throw things out and get your take on them. The media component of this, right? We talk about it on this show. We got to talk about it. It's what people are talking about. I hear politicians. My goodness, the tone you hear from some Canadian politicians over the last little while. Where do you look at to explain what we're seeing from Canadians?
I think people really feel threatened and anxious. There's so much uncertainty in what's going on, and I think people's natural reaction is to worry about that. I don't know if I'd blame the media on that one or if people are rightly concerned. I can't imagine Canada and Canadians not reacting to the type of rhetoric coming out of the United States right now. It tends to cause people to think about their own country and their own communities as being under threat, and the reaction to that is increased hostility towards our neighbors to the south.
And of course, heck, I don't want to blame media either, right? I mean, I'm part of the media, but I oftentimes wonder about the snowball effect, right? It's sometimes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we're going to talk about it, that the U.S. is a threat over and over and over, and then boom, it'll turn into that threat in a lot of people's minds. How do you think Canadian leaders are handling this? Whether it's the Mark Carneys and the Pierre Poilievres and the Yves-François Blanchettes, how do you think they're handling this?
I think there's a real crisis going on, and so I would be shocked if the media as well as our political leaders aren't actually talking about it. I think they've tried to be as measured as they can, but it's difficult to be measured when the rhetoric coming out of the United States seems to be inflammatory, and intentionally so.
Wrapping up with Allison. Sorry, go ahead, Allison.
No, go ahead.
Let me ask you what else you're tracking here, Allison, along with that sentiment. What are some of the other things you track?
So we actually run surveys on a whole huge swath of attitudes of Canadians, especially going into this election campaign. I think if I was going to say one of the other big trends that we've seen is attitudes towards immigration really shifting over the last couple years. Canada's kind of been a beacon for really tolerant and open attitudes towards immigration, and we've seen that weaken in the last few years, especially in terms of numbers of immigrants that Canadians want to see coming into the country.
What does weaken mean there? Give me when we say weaken, is it falling off a cliff, a few percentage points? What do you mean by weaken?
So the question we usually use to measure immigration, a lot of the polling firms do this as well, asks Canadians if they want more or less or about the same levels of immigration. And unlike many countries, Canadians have had a majority saying, the bulk saying about the same as right now or more. And that category of people who want less immigration has really risen over the last few years. We were in a survey in the last month, and it was around 60% of Canadians saying they want less immigration. And that's a level I haven't seen in 25 years of polling.
Yeah, up to 60%. My goodness. Allison, fascinating stuff. I want to thank you for hopping on with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Allison Harell is a professor at UQAM, a specialist in public opinion over at their Department of Political Science.